back to another episode of the Behavioral Economics and Marketing Podcast series. This is Sandra Thomas-Comenole. Welcome back to the Behavioral Economics and Marketing Podcast. But before I get started, I would like to take a moment to thank my listeners for your patience. It has been a long 5+ months since the last Behavioral Economics and Marketing Podcast episode. Though it's not much consolation, I guarantee that the stellar episodes I have queued up will be well worth the wait. Second, I want to thank all of you that have reached out to me with kind words, encouragement, and donations. This has been a trying time for my family, but we are on this side of the recovery process. For those that don't know what I am talking about, the morning of December 30th, 2021 started out like any other normal day. I was working from home. My husband and the kids were on vacation from school and work. They were just relaxing, drinking hot cocoa, and chatting about Balthazar Getty, of all people. But at 12:13, our lives changed forever. My husband started yelling that he saw flames. The flames were in our backyard and very tall, like the size of a 2-story house. I told him to round up the kids because we had to leave, and I called 911. When I told the operator that there was a fire in our backyard, she said, "I'm going to ask you again, do you see flames?" I said yes, and she hung up on me. She had no idea that there was a fire anywhere near us, and she actually hung up on me. We tried to grab our cats, but they were very scared and ran away. All of my children had left in their jammies and without winter coats. My oldest and my youngest left even without shoes on their feet. We grabbed nothing. No computers, no IDs, no clothes, nothing. By 12:16, 3 minutes after we saw the fire, we were driving down the road out of our neighborhood, away from our house, not knowing what we would come back to. The minutes, hours, and days to follow were some of the most traumatic of my life, and surely that of my 4 children. The next couple of hours were a blur. We first drove to the mall to wait it out. My husband was covered in soot and ash, and we began to realize that this wasn't just a small thing. Throughout the day, we were evacuated from shelter after shelter as the fire continued to spread. Late in the evening, we were told to head to the airport and stay at an airport hotel. And over the next couple of days, we waited for the final word that our house was gone. Our house was in the neighborhood that was hit the hardest and first, and not a single house was left standing. In a matter of moments, we lost not only our house and all of our things, but we lost those irreplaceable items too. Trophies and awards, family photographs, the blankets that I sewed for my children when they were babies, the moments in our lives that we treasured enough to save mementos from. All of the presents my children had received for Christmas only days before. Our Christmas tree with ornaments that we'd collected for over 20 years. The effects of this loss will be felt by each of us for years to come. That was just about 5 months ago. The good news is that the initial shock of the loss is gone, and we as a family have begun to heal and rebuild our lives. And when anything like this happens, a big bump in the road, so to speak, I believe that an important part of the recovery process is to take stock of what you have learned from the situation. You may have learned more about who you are and who you are not, your strengths, your weaknesses. You may have developed new skills and ideals, and you may have forsaken ones that no longer apply. It is for this reason that I have written the new season of the Behavioral Economics and Marketing Podcast on the theme, Lessons from the Fire. Through this season, I will be applying lessons that I personally learned from the wildfire to marketing and business development, as well as professional and personal growth. Additionally, listeners can expect to hear about poignant self-revelation, interesting tidbits on human behavior in the wake of a natural disaster, and economic truths about everyday occurrences. This season will be dedicated to those that, along with our family, lost everything in the Marshall Fire, as well as to those that have been affected by natural disasters. My hope is that listening to this season of the Behavioral Economics Marketing Podcast will help others in their healing process. But I also believe that this season will be full of marketing wisdom for marketing professionals and business leaders. So jumping into Season 5, let's review the difference between traditional economics and behavioral economics in order to better define and examine behavioral economics and learn about the basics of applying behavioral economics concepts to leadership and marketing. What is traditional economics? Traditional economics is defined as a social science and branch of knowledge concerned chiefly with the description and analysis of the production, distribution, consumption of goods and services, and the transfer of wealth. Another standard definition of economics is the study of how people allocate their limited resources to satisfy their nearly unlimited wants. Economists study the applications of the five basic foundations of economics: incentives, trade-offs, opportunity cost, marginal thinking, and the principle that trade creates value. In short, economists study how decisions are made on a micro and a macro level, from individuals and companies or organizations to societies, governments, and world leaders. However, traditional economics proceeds as if everyone were homo economicus, or rationally self-interested decision-maker, a decision-maker that is acutely aware of all the opportunities and options in the environment and their expected payoff, a decision-maker that strives to maximize the benefits received from each course of action while minimizing the costs. And where does traditional economics fall short? Have you ever purchased an item just to find it at a cheaper price down the street? Or have you ever purchased a gallon of milk at the corner store even though it cost twice as much than at the grocery store? What about savings? Is there an expensive item that you would like to purchase, such as a car or a house or a vacation package, that you would need to save up for, but instead of saving for the item, you continue to spend money on other things such as fancy dinner or expensive clothes? The truth is that humans are not always rational, self-interested decision makers. We don't always maximize benefits and minimize costs. We make decisions under uncertainty, with insufficient knowledge, feedback, and bounded rationality. We sometimes lack self-control. Our preferences change, often based on how the decision and the options are presented. Humans are irrational, and that is where behavioral economics steps in. So what is behavioral economics? Behavioral economics incorporates the study of psychology into the analysis of the decision-making behind an economic outcome, to capture a wider range of human motivations than the rational agent model alone affords. For example, through behavioral economics, we can study and analyze the factors that lead up to a consumer buying one product instead of another. Behavioral economics provides a framework to understand when and how people make decisions. Marketing professionals can tap into behavioral economics to better understand buyer behavior and help to shape their marketing mix. Leaders can tap into behavioral economics to create happy and healthy working environments for their direct reports and fellow employees, invest in their team, increase team engagement, and motivate their team. Here are just a few of the episodes that listeners can expect to hear about in Season 5 of the Behavioral Economics and Marketing Podcast, Lessons from the Fire. 1. Achieving optimal outcomes with backwards induction. In this episode, I will discuss the decision-making technique of backwards induction and how to leverage it in a wide variety of personal, professional, and marketing decisions, such as which candidate to hire, compensation schemes to best incentivize employees, whether or not to launch a new product or campaign, creating your marketing budget and how to allocate funds, and then on a personal basis, whether or not your family should adopt a second cat. 2. In the episode Keynesian Economics and Natural Disasters, I will discuss how Keynesian economics is all about stimulating aggregate demand through government spending to increase economic growth, and how in the wake of a natural disaster, government spending and consumer spending is stimulated in a sizable, systematic, and calculable way. And 3. In the episode on corporate philanthropy in relation to natural disasters, I will discuss how companies that give back to communities through corporate philanthropy, especially in the wake of a natural disaster, can create a win-win-win situation for the survivors, the community, and their bottom line. In Season 5, I will dive deeper into these behavioral economics concepts in relation to natural disasters, and then apply them to marketing, leadership, and personal development. Additional episodes that listeners can expect in Lessons from the Fire, Season 5 of the Behavioral Economics and Marketing Podcast, are Altruism versus Self-Seeking Behavior in Marketing and Leadership, Zero-Sum Games and Insurance, Loss Aversion and the Breakdown of Societal Norms in Response to a Natural Disaster. I will also spend quite a bit of time camping out in Maslow's hierarchy of needs as it applies to marketing, professional, and personal development. Wrapping it up. Understanding how we as humans make decisions is an important part of marketing and leadership. Behavioral economics is the study of decision-making and can give keen insight into buyer behavior and help to shape your marketing mix. Season 5 is on the theme Lessons from the Fire, where I will dive deeper into these behavioral economics concepts in relation to natural disasters, and then apply them to marketing, leadership, and personal development. If you are enjoying this podcast, give me a shout out, like it, share it, follow it, and review it. Thank you for listening to another episode of Behavioral Economics and Marketing. This is Sandra Thomas-Comenole.